Hi, everybody, and welcome to the Property AI Report. This is your weekly digest of all things property and AI, brought to you by me, Mal McCallion, and my good friend and co-host, Matt Goddard. Matt, how are you today?
I'm brought to you by Elon Musk's Starlink today, Mal. I'm great. How are you? Or am I great?
Really,
Who
really
knows?
good. You are. You're in the wilds of the north.
I am just literally over the garden fence of the sea. So it's
Amazing.
all good.
Amazing. And beautiful sunshine. Yes, it's very early. So we're recording this on 22nd of May. It's Friday morning, 7:45. It's already 16 degrees out there. It's going to be an absolute scorcher this weekend over here in the UK. And holiday as well. So
you really
excited.
do sound like a drive-down radio DJ when you do that.
Big shout out there to everybody on their road on the
Surely
way up the
FM
M1.
coming on your ears.
So listen, without further ado, mate, let's get stuck into our property news. All right, so big news this week is the Rightmove court case has got a date, or at least the first date. So people who have been listening for a while will recall that Rightmove is set for some legal action, 1.5 billion being claimed by an ex-member of the Competition and Markets Authority, a guy called Jeremy Newman, who believes that Rightmove has been unfairly abusing its dominant position in the online property portal market by charging excessive and unfair fees to estate agents. Again, regular viewers will know that that is not something that is argued against too frequently on this podcast, because yes, I think a 70% margin suggests that there is something has gone wrong in the market for sure. But now this particular court case is actually going to be heard in November. On the 2nd and 3rd of November, meaning that it will have finished. I don't know if the actual result will have come out, but it will finish on the day of EA Masters. So I wonder what everybody's going to be talking about there. But Matt, it's progressing, right? It's not being thrown out at this point. So yeah, I think, what do you think the mood will be like in Rightmove Towers right now?
I think I'm also aware that there's more to come, isn't there? Not just from this particular one, but there's other class action lawsuits being put together. So whether Rightmove are conscious of those, but it feels like there's a mounting storm. As you say, it was EA Masters would be an interesting day, won't it, if this has all just come together?
Yeah, absolutely. So yeah, we hear from a number of sources that not an exclusive on here, but has been talked about in various channels around the UK residential property market for a little while, that there are, as you say, Matt, a number of other class actions coming together, also focusing very much on Rightmove's charges over the last decade or two. The long and short of it is, I think the average right now is about £1,650 per branch per month. Various arguments centre on whether it is unfair that Rightmove charges the corporates far less, between £350 and £500 in general is the sort of accepted number for corporate branches. The self-employed models, because of the way that they are organised, they can get it, and indeed they are advertised as one of the benefits of joining some of these self-employed brands is that you can get Rightmove and everything else for about 150 quid. So, as an independent agent or as a strong regional, you are likely to be paying way more than that 1,650 quid average, because you're obviously being offset from the others. So that's one kind of strand that is being argued against. Others, again, just kind of include the fact that it goes up by 10 to 12, 15% every year, regardless of where inflation is. And, it has become detached from the actual value that is being delivered. It may well be that this, that actually the leads are of value, but are they of £1,650 on average value per month, etc. So yeah, there's a lot at stake, really. I mean, if you think about what this publicly listed business has been through over recent times in terms of its share price, that's taken a serious beating, down by about sort of 50% since last summer, over the last year or so. So yeah, I think it's going to be a very it's almost a
cool
waiting
summer.
Game. Very good.
Yes, thank you. Following on from the Smashing Nicey vibes earlier.
Excellent. I think it's going to be very interesting. I assume that they must know that there are various blows coming their way. As I say, this particular court case set for the 2nd and 3rd of November, and then if that is allowed to then proceed to trial, that will presumably be sort of April time next year or something like that, which again, it just kind of keeps on going. In the meantime, Rightmove is very, very, very specifically carrying on as normal. sailing on. Its guidance over the last couple of weeks for the forthcoming year is we're just going to do exactly the same as we always have, which is put prices up by, I think, 120 to 150 quid on average per branch per month. And yes, sit tight and keep arguing that this is entirely fair and entirely right. And yeah, I know that you speak to a lot of agents out there, Matt. Are they talking about this particular court case? Are they just kind of, battening down the hatches and trying to survive through what has been a relatively challenging few months, right?
Not the ones I speak to, but then the things I'm obviously talking to them is much more in terms of the stories we get onto next with the likes of the digital negotiator and sort of embedding technology in their processes and efficiencies, whereas your obviously conversations are much more focused on that marketing side of things, aren't they?
Yeah, sure. Yes. So yeah, it is a big problem for many agents. So yeah, look, we will obviously keep an eye on that, and as that comes through. Rightmove's been very tight-lipped about its reaction to all of this sort of stuff. There is an ongoing court case, etc. So no comment in general. But yes, it's going to be interesting to see, what else happens between now and November. And as you say, Matt, if any of these other sort of floated court cases come into view as well. All right. Next up on our property news, we've got some data from 20EA, basically saying that really interesting findings. Self-employed agents outperform traditional ones. Okay, now this is a very, very specific and really quite, I guess, controversial in terms of what it says about traditional and kind of corporate high street estate agents versus self-employed. The actual stats are that from 20EA, so again, really reputable source, found that agents had a 65.2% higher likelihood of a sale as a self-employed agent compared to 53.1 for traditionally employed agents. So that is quite a significant, from 65.2 down to 53.1. And the argument that is being made is that, it's much more, it's glorious self-interest by these self-employed agents, which is if they don't sell it, they don't get paid, and then they don't eat. Whereas in traditional agencies, there is more kind of lettings and various other revenue streams that might be able to offset some of those failures. But Matt, this is really quite a punchy finding, right?
It is, and it's a few metrics as well, isn't it, that they're sort of highlighting in there. That's the faster sale being 142 days versus 152 days for the rest of the industry. And you have to, just as you say, it's almost put it down in a way to that. Hand to mouth's probably a little crude, but the more focused that maybe self-employed agents are on the full transaction. If I can chase through my pipeline, then I'm going to get some cash in the pocket, right? And it certainly identifies that maybe some of these businesses are much more focused on their individual transactions. That when you're in the big corporates, you may be handing it off to a different department and forgetting about it, and that's extra scrutiny. If it's better for the consumer and the customer, then great.
Yeah, absolutely. So Nick Huntley, who's the director of 20A, who's brought these forwards. We were actually with him yesterday, weren't we?
He was. He alluded to some of these stats as well, didn't he?
Yeah, exactly. And and also things like fall through rates are another area where they perform strongly. Their fall through rates were 21.29% compared to the standard 23.6. So again, it does point to this. Yes, again, the sort of glorious self-interest of like, right, well, if I don't make this happen, if I don't get all of these chains to kind of link up and so on and so forth, going that just slightly extra in order to make these things, these deals kind of come through. So, yeah, really interesting findings, I think, and certainly points to this sector, which again it always surprises me, is only makes up about 3 to 4% of the actual the market itself, although it does feel like it's significantly bigger because as self-employed individuals, they do, kind of put themselves out there on social media and others a lot more than perhaps the more traditional ones. But yeah, very, very interesting. And certainly things that we will continue to keep an eye on as we go forward. All right, our third story on our property news this week, some stats from Barclays about the desire for second homes versus the actual whether people are buying them or not. So 11% of homeowners would consider buying an additional property within the next 2 years, but the vast majority consider it too expensive and too risky. And this, kind of plays into what, again, speaking to a lot of agents out there right now, the landlords are very much and moving out the market. There's a lot of sales going on, and it's really sort of the Renters' Rights Act and other regulatory situations are kind of putting a lot of people off, particularly the sort of accidental landlords who might just have one property. And then there's other stats as well from the same report saying that things like 40% of tenants don't know that the Renters' Rights Act exists. So again, it's all very well passing all this legislation, doing all the changes to the actual industry, but actually, has it had an impact on the ground, and is it going to make any difference to how many tenants feel about it? Matt, I know this is one you've been keeping an eye on as well. What's your take?
It is, and I was at the Lettings Industry Council early this week, and obviously it was the first one after renters' rights kicked in, so it's a case of sort of seeing how everyone else was finding it. And I think your point there about it was fairly quiet is the answer to how it was, and sort of I don't know if it's everyone just bracing for impact still, but your point or the stat there about how many people are just simply unaware of it. And it made me think of the government sort of advertising that they did, and you may not have seen it because it was that subtle, but it certainly popped up between Netflix episodes or Prime Video and those sort of things for me. And whether that's because I'm central London and a particular style of house, and therefore I got them. But even then, it was only because I'm in the industry. I was like, oh, that's what they're advertising, the awareness of these changes. There obviously was a flood of Section 13s in the, Section 21, Section 13 is the new one. Section 21's in the build-up to this, and a lot of people trying to get out. But what I also found interesting, which isn't necessarily the theme of this particular article, but in terms of second homes, is the sort of mood music that I hear through the companies in the relocation agent network is around people where they've got those second homes down in sort of the Cornwall areas, or the sort of the properties where it's more holiday lets, and people sort of not going there because of the challenges. You sort of see markets shrinking because of these extra pressures that the government bring in without, I guess, on those occasions they are intended because they're trying to reserve properties for the locals. But it's I think the Renters' Rights Act, there's still a lot to play out on that front.
Absolutely right, and no, I haven't actually seen. That's really interesting because I haven't seen any of those adverts at all. So it doesn't surprise me that
demographic based, isn't it, Mel?
Guess it must be, mate. Guess it must be. But yeah, I remember back in the day, again, talking back about the 80s DJs, Charlie Says, don't play with matches and all that sort of stuff. Government awareness campaigns.
Having Keegan on crossing roads, right?
Exactly right. Yeah, the Green Cross going back, all that sort of stuff. Yeah, they used to really, used to do it properly. They used to know stuff. They used to tell you stuff. But yeah, I know that it is much more difficult nowadays with the fragmentation of all media and stuff like that. But yeah, it is no surprise to me that 40% of tenants still don't have a clue that the Renters' Rights Act are coming in, and it's probably going to continue that way for a little while. They need to bring back Charlie. That's what I'm saying. All right, so that is the end of our property news for this week. Let us move on to our AI and tech news. All right, we are going to start with Google, aren't we? Because this week was the big Google I/O conference, and they revealed a bunch of new stuff, bits of which we kind of touched on last week. So Google Omni video and model, which is going to be amazing. I have not had time to play around with it as yet, but I cannot wait to get my hands on it. We've also got things like Gemini Spark, which is a 24/7 agentic assistant, trying to be the sort of Jarvis from Iron Man. Basically, it's got access to all of your kind of data anyway if you use Gmail and things like that. Obviously Chrome and all the search that you've done as well. But yeah, Matt, there was plenty to get our teeth into on this Google stuff. And what caught your eye from it?
I think for starters, it felt a little bit maybe muddled in terms of what they were presenting, because the big noise out of obviously Anthropic and OpenAI has been very much focused around the harnesses and Claude codes, Codework, and Codex. And they sort of launched and said, well, here is anti-gravity, and this is our sort of coding assistant, et cetera, et cetera. But then they also had their sort of the Google AI Labs sort of approach, which was having the same sort of messaging. So it's like, well, which one do you want to do? And then, as you sort of touched on there, they've got their Spark. But it's like, is Spark their approach to OpenClaw? But then they were saying, actually, that AI Studios is our approach to OpenClaw. So it's just like, get your mind up. And it's like, I'm sure internally they're clear. But when they come to this big event, you'd have thought it'd been more consistent messaging. And like, I don't know if they're necessarily targeting the consumer or they're targeting enterprise, but they're sort of picking the way through. I think for me, take a step back, Omni, whilst its name gives it away, it's trying to be all things to all people across all media. The really interesting part is when it comes to video, which is obviously straight into your wheelhouse, and I'm sure we'll see some very impressive changes on it and videos coming out over the weekend and next week once you sort of roll up your sleeves and get a chance to play with it. But when Nano Banana launched last summer and became sort of for those people who haven't invested time learning Photoshop, you could quickly make Photoshop style edits to pictures that already existed. It looks like the Omni video can do exactly that with video. And being able to sort of take I saw one where they'd taken video of London and sort of panning across Big Ben and everything else, and they took it from a daytime to making it New Year's Eve and the fireworks going off, and they even changed the time on Big Ben so it was midnight. So being able to do those real-time edits to video, and so for example, if we were sat around a table yesterday and people were slating certain companies for having this consistent video backgrounds, you could quickly take those videos and say, give me a different background, make it night. What's the one we used to use? Will Smith eating pasta.
Absolutely.
You've got video of Will Smith eating pasta. Let's set it in the evening. Let's make it that he's on a beach on a stool eating pasta. Being able to make those edits. They didn't really say who they're targeting. Is it me on the phone trying to do a cap cut like one of my pals was trying to do last night for his kids' footy team? Or is it enterprise video businesses that you sort of work with where you can make those changes? But the power of that Omni video mode, I'm looking forward to seeing what you produce next week.
Yeah, thanks, man. So yeah, it is, I think like you, it was almost a kind of wind tunnel of things coming at you. And, you just kind of almost like trying to catch bits of it and go, right, well, actually, what does this mean? And how is this going to fit into my daily life? And do I really care? It's really, really fascinating just to see how these, how the different organizations, the frontier labs have kind of, shuffled over the last, even 6 months, right? So 6 months ago, regular listeners will remember my obsession with Gemini 3.1. Yeah, that's gone. Now everything's Claude, and now Google is coming back, and I'm sure we will see Gemini 4 at some stage. To be honest, I anticipated something like that coming through this week. But yeah, it's almost like that they've kind of got so much going on, and there's so much they can do that they're actually doing as much as possible, and it's kind of actually diluting the real message about actually what it is that this means for me, what problem it solves for me today that is going to actually help me in my business or in my personal life right now. So yeah, it's there is a lot that's coming through from Google. It may be that in the next sort of month, 6 weeks, it starts to actually all kind of click into place and make sense. And then come the end of June, I'm going to be obsessing about Google all over again. But yeah, I couldn't really get my arms around it. But as you say, looking forward to using Omni because I do think visual video media is going to be the way that people communicate. I'm actually playing around with Dance actually over the last few days, earlier on this week. That is phenomenal. So that's one of the Chinese models. And all I did was just upload a photo of me, put a prompt in, and then it actually had me very articulately going in and talking to an estate agent in their office. One of the funny things is that this is not unique to but if you put like a UK, to specify you want a UK street, then it will always put a red London bus in there, or a red telephone box, or a Union Jack flag.
That's correct from where I live, though, right? Well, maybe not the Union Jack flags.
Yeah, so but anywhere else is like, why have I got a London bus in this rural part of England?
Three thoughts.
But yeah, it is. Yeah, it's it's always worth going, and we say this every single week. Go play. This is fun.
Was Dance the one where it's Brad Pitt and Keanu Reeves doing kung fu or something? Okay,
absolutely.
Well, there you go. There's an idea for you. Me versus you, and obviously I'll win.
Bring it on. All right, next up on our AI and tech news, there's been talking about big titans such as us fighting, and we've got Elon Musk versus Sam Altman in court has now reached a conclusion, and the jury came back very quickly on Monday with a verdict, and the verdict is that Elon Musk lost. Okay, so just to recap, Elon Musk was suing OpenAI to try and essentially break it up, stop it from moving from to a for-profit. From a non-profit. Elon Musk was one of the co-founders back in the day. During the court case, it has turned out, well, loads of things have come out, much of it pretty gnarly. But it's come to pass that essentially Elon Musk was trying to turn it into a for-profit along the way, and he wanted to merge it into Tesla and be in charge of it. And Altman and Greg Brockman, who's the president, were basically trying to hold him off, but at the same time had their eyeballs very firmly on some how they were going to make $1 billion from this venture as well. So Yeah, the kind of dirty laundry that you don't tend to want to be seen in court. But obviously, Musk now runs his own XAI that's now part of SpaceX, which we'll talk about again in a sec. And it's basically this corporate kind of jostling, and can XAI throw OpenAI off its pace a little bit as well? But yes, in the end, the jury very quickly decided that it was too late. That even if there was any case to answer, then Elon Musk had not filed it within the right time frame. So it got kind of thrown out on a technicality, which seems like a lot of effort for very little reward. But Musk wasn't even in the court; he didn't really care. It just seemed like it was very much just a drag Altman and Brockman into court and have them have to defend what they've been doing. But Matt, I know that this kind of gossipy stuff isn't really your bag. Did you have any thoughts on it?
The only parts of it really is whether that then obviously has the impact on their IPO, and obviously their story is that's all gearing up, and there's a step towards that this week, and also as you just say, what's the broader impact on just AI in general? Is like seeing these mega wealthy people trading blows in court. Do the general public even aware of it? Everyone's probably aware of Elon after his escapades, like in Argentina with the chainsaw and that sort of thing.
Yeah.
Like, does it just give AI as a general thing as being sort of, this is something that the super mega rich are playing with, and undermine all the good value that it's doing?
Yeah, and there's another story out or doing the rounds this week. Apparently, 10,000 people at OpenAI, Anthropic, Nvidia, and Meta have retirement level wealth, whereas everybody else is kind of watching from the outside. And I think what's happening over in Silicon Valley is that kind of divide, right? And I do think it's going to play out over here as well. Where you're going to see, if you are an agent adopting AI or somebody in your business looking to utilize these tools, then you're going to be far ahead. Perhaps, and the phrase is disproportionate, you capture a disproportionate value in the market because you're able to actually do things that others can't. And we're just talking about the video side of things. If you're able to produce real high quality brand videos way ahead of anybody else and capture the attention of your local market, then that is going to be a significant jump for you in your business and so on. And obviously that's what we love to talk about. That's what we love to do in our businesses. But yeah, it's something that I think is slightly unedifying when you're kind of looking on and these guys are just sort of throwing bundles of cash at each other, or lawyers to throw sticks at each other when yes, this is not necessarily a part of the year where loads of people have got loads of money, what with all the other stuff that's going on. All right, next up in our AI and tech news, just touching on the IPO stories. So the word is that OpenAI, now that they've got this court case out of the way, are filing for an IPO as early as today, Friday, 22nd of May. Also this week, SpaceX has filed, and I think they're going in July, is it? June, July, something like that. And that's going to make Musk a trillionaire. So, he just didn't really care about going back into court because he's got so many other things to focus on. So yeah, look, lots of kind of big financy stuff happening as well.
To tie in with that one as well, Anthropic's set to generate 10.9 billion in revenue during the second quarter of this as well. So it's they're all flying along, aren't they? And we did expect this to be the year of the IPOs. So it's getting momentum. I guess really establishing the fact that this isn't just flight of fancy. This is here and coming home to roost, I guess. And but make sure you're utilising it is the key.
Yeah. 100%. And then, to your point, when you were out in San Fran last week, you said, the Claude Anthropic's director was up on stage saying that instead of 10xing their revenues, they've 80x'd it. And that's just crazy. So yeah, the sooner they can kind of capitalize on that, get some more money in, be able to build some more data centers, then and that's going to be able to continue that kind of growth, which is insane. All right. Elsewhere on our AI and tech news, back into more Sam Altman, and again, just kind of, I think, trying to move on from the kind of gruesomeness of the court case and the dirty laundry. Sam Altman has made an offer to every Y Combinator startup that basically, in return for some equity, then they can have unlimited access to tokens, right? That's huge.
It is, and it comes alongside. The one I'm always interested in is how we look at pricing AI, and we've touched on this before. Everyone's maybe it was last summer was supposed to announce one pricing model, and about a week later they flipped it again because they realised it wasn't working. Even with Salesforce, which is a good one with obviously my background, where they've moved towards their headless CRM, which means you won't have people logging in. It'll all be interactive via the likes of Slack, how those pricing models change. And sort of Sam Altman dropping, I think it's $2 million dollars worth of tokens to Y Combinator founders for a return of equity. And it's sort of like laying down that gauntlet of saying, come on. But also, in the same way that Google gives all college students a free accounts so that they then get invested in the Google ecosystem, it's sort of saying to all founders and startups, build on OpenAI, and that becomes the platform of choice, right? But there was another story this week where pricing's moving more towards cloud computing, where you can reserve cost up front. So rather than trying to work out your cost margins, you can say, look, I'm going to take a certain bulk load for the first 1 to 3 years, guarantee your spend during that 1 to 3 years, rather than again trying to work out these really weird metrics that if I'm this successful, as you say, Anthropic budgeted that their stretch goal was going to be 10x, and then it went to 80x. Like, how do you accommodate for that? So it looks like AI pricing is shifting from sort of a SaaS type model, which I guess is understandable, to more of a cloud computing, where I think it's OpenAI have offered to be able to reserve 1 to 3 years worth of tokens, so that you've then got a bit of a guaranteed spend, and that's at the enterprise.
I'm going to token max everything, and then you sort out. It does remind me a little bit of like, back in, again, showing age here, back in the 2000s with mobile phones, right? You started out with this all you can eat package that was like, amazing deal, and then they go, actually kind of fair use, because you're absolutely blowing our bandwidth. And then slowly you then have these kind of like chunks, so you can have like the basic level, or then the intermediate level, or the super duper level. And it feels like there's something like that happening, where they're trying to kind of just understand, right, what's the right kind of way of packaging all this up. If token maxing continues to be a thing, and everybody kind of beats their chest about how many tokens they're using, that very quickly will just destroy any capacity for anybody else to be able to use it, right?
So I'm afraid we lost Matt at this point in the recording, somewhere to the wilds of North Lincolnshire. But he'll be back next week, as I will be, and we'll just wrap it up here.
Everybody else out there, have amazing bank holiday weekends. It's going to be glorious. So yes, it is unusual for the bank holidays and the sunshine to coexist, as we know in the UK. So enjoy it, everybody out there. We will be back again next week with plenty more property and AI news. Look forward to seeing you in 7 days.